Whenever you're ready, I can start.
Yeah, I'm ready. I just got some tea going here.
Love it.
Hold on,
I
let me
have
do some
some.
push-ups.
Nice, do it. You know what? Even I'm gonna do some.
That was good.
Nice. How many did you do?
What's that?
How many did you do?
I did 20.
Nice. Even I did 20. We should have done 21. Should we do one more?
One more, yeah,
One more.
21.
All
Perfect.
right.
There we go. A little dap for the 21.
We got it.
I'm gonna start
All
upside
right.
down.
Okay. Nice. That's impressive. I love it.
I can't hold it that long. I thought you were gonna hit record.
That was already pretty good. We've been recording this whole thing.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
It's starting to look like this Bitcoin thing is here to stay.
Welcome to the Why Bitcoin Wins podcast, brought to you by Beaver Bitcoin, the easiest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada. Head over to beaverbitcoin.com and check it out today. I'm your host Shravan, and today I'm joined by Brad Mills, Canadian OG Bitcoiner and investor. Welcome to the pod, Brad. I'm actually a bit out of breath from all those push-ups we just did.
Yeah, me too. A little bit. I'm catching a breath here, but thanks for having me. How many podcasts have you done so far?
You know what? I don't know the exact count, but I think about 10.
Oh,
10 or
nice.
so?
I'm
Yeah.
an OG to your show then. That's good.
Yeah, we haven't posted all of them, but I've done more than we've posted. So we're releasing them every week.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
thanks
it's
for having me on in the first cohort.
100%. I'm so happy that you could be here. You know, Brad, the show is called Why Bitcoin Wins, and we like to dig into why our guests think that Bitcoin wins. And we find that the best place to start is your origin story. So, Brad, can you share, your origin story and then how you came across Bitcoin? I know that was sometime in 2011, so super early. Um, so yeah, the floor is yours.
Yeah, what's the audience like? Do you got any ideas yet on who's listening to the show?
I think it's a lot of Beaver customers and a lot of X users. The Bitcoin Army community on X is really great and very engaged. So we've been interviewing a lot of them, and that they are the main people who watch it on X. On
Okay,
YouTube
cool.
and other platforms, I'm not sure yet.
So this goes out to like Beaver customers as like an
It does.
email. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Yeah, well, I can come at it from that perspective. Is it mostly Canadians or it's all Canadians, right?
Beaver's customers are all Canadian.
Right.
Yeah,
So, is everybody Canadian that you interview, or do you have other people on too?
we've had people from the US as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, um, the kind of shortish story for me is I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Cape Breton. Was actually born in Calgary. My parents were off trying to find work out west.
Mm-hmm.
Born in Calgary, and then we moved back to Cape Breton, where my family's all from. And in the 90s, it was like an economic depression in Cape Breton. So it was like 25% unemployment rate, probably higher than that. The unofficial employment rate is probably like 30% sometimes in the 90s, 80s, and 90s. And a lot of poverty. It's still one of the like lowest per capita income and savings places in Canada. A lot of the young people move away because there's not much opportunity there. So there's a lot of reliance on the government, lots of special programs that employment insurance runs in the East Coast. So kind of like I grew up without really a lot of knowledge about money, and money was just a thing we didn't have. So I moved around a lot. My dad was an entrepreneur.
Where all did you move? Where were you living?
Just all around the island. It was just, my parents split up when I was younger. So my dad and my mom would both be like moving around different apartments, different houses. So I was like, I went to like 7 different schools and didn't really get a chance to like plant like a root system of like friends from when I was a child all the way till now type of thing. But I was introduced to like entrepreneurship early and the concept of saving, but it was actually through like candy. I used to save candy, put it in jars and stuff, and Halloween candy. I would literally like treat it like I was an investor when I was a kid. But my
At least
dad was an
at least you can't print more candy
yeah,
out
not
of
with
thin
the
air.
3D printer. Throw the sugar in there. But yeah, it was like I didn't really have too much of a exposure to saving and middle class lifestyle. Everybody was in poverty around me, or being entrepreneurial and trying to make it work. So I didn't really have too much of a background in business or whatever, but I did have examples around me, like different people in my family would try to make. Everybody had a side hustle. They would try to make some money. And I even had one as a kid. My mom started us doing clown and magic shows when I was like 9 years old. So for 7 or 8 years of my life, I was like on the weekends at the malls and birthday parties and stuff, like doing magic shows and clown shows, making some money. And I would save that money and then use it for buying some candy or buying some presents for people or whatever.
Nice.
So
Next time we meet, I'd love to see a trick or two.
yeah, I can make my thumb snap in half. It's pretty crazy.
Can we see?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like this one, like, oh my god, my thumb. No, it's we used to use like props. We'd get like illusion props and stuff we'd order from magazines and stuff. We used to breed doves and rabbits, so I literally would do all those tricks like pulling rabbits out of hats. We put a lot of the money that we made on the magic show back into the magic show. We'd buy more props and more tricks and more animals and stuff. So I grew up with a lot of weird experiences. But it was a interesting, unique life to grow up in Cape Breton, because everybody, even though they're not striving to, like here in Ontario where I ended up moving, it's a lot of like people are trying to like work hard and strive to achieve and accomplish more in their life and get a nicer home, or keep up with the Joneses, that sort of thing. But a lot of that energy back home was spent on learning how to play an instrument or writing a play or becoming an artist or whatever. So a lot of people would just work the bare minimum that they could at a job to get enough hours to get EI in the summer, so you could take the summer off and like work on your music gig or whatever. So yeah, I went that route to become a creative person. And and like my dad's an amazing guitar player. He's played in a band ever since I was a kid. He still does. And he also is a Bitcoin guy. So he's a web designer right now, but he saves in Bitcoin. He's been doing it for years. So he takes profits from his clients and he saves in Bitcoin.
Did
So,
you orange pill him, or did he orange pill
yeah,
you?
he was helping me out back in 2011 when I first found Bitcoin. I had him like registering domains for me. He wasn't buying back then. He kind of kicks himself, but he started buying in like 2014 or something, right? So still good at entry prices, and he just bought the dip yesterday on this big crazy crash we had. So he's orange pilled, and he's got good conviction, good strong hands.
Yeah, we're recording on Feb 6, 2026. Feb 5th, we saw a big crash, right? All the way
Yeah,
down to 60,000 USD.
yeah,
So it was a nice dip.
86,000 Canadian or so, right?
86,000 Canadian. 83,000 Canadian was the low that I just wrote about in the bulletin this morning. That's going to go out tomorrow to all our readers. But yeah, I mean, it seems like it was an amazing time to be buying.
Yeah, definitely. And it was, I mean, so to kind of like continue on that other story of like how I got to Bitcoin, I wanted to get into art, the art scene,
Hmm.
the comedy scene really is what it was. I was writing one act plays and performing sketch comedy and things like that at the local
Hmm.
theaters, improv, stuff like that. And I really wanted to make a movie. So I set a goal to learn how to make a movie and then raise the money to make a movie. And I
What
didn't have
year
any
is this?
experience.
This is
What's that?
2011? This is 2011?
No, this was 2001, 2002, something like
2001.
that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I went to Toronto to learn how to kind of like get into the comedy industry a little bit more, learn screenwriting and stand-up comedy and all kinds of different things from comedians that were performing, like practicing professionals, right?
Hmm.
And I graduated 2 years of that and had written a screenplay, and it was going to cost me $50,000 to make the movie, and I didn't
Hmm.
have like any money. So the idea of getting $50,000 in like 2004 when I graduated was a little daunting, but I was pretty excited to do it. So I just started knocking on doors and ringing trees and Googling how do I make money online and literally doing whatever I possibly could try to figure it out. And I kind of stumbled into becoming an entrepreneur through my journey to try to make a movie. And so I kind of took a detour and I started learning about, at the time, the Facebook had just released the API. I don't know
Hmm.
when you got on Facebook. It was
Very
like,
probably 2007, something like that.
okay, so that's about when I got on Facebook. So you're an early adopter too. So Facebook right around that time was probably like maybe 10% of the population or less was on Facebook. Everybody was still using like Friendster and MySpace at that time, I think.
Hmm.
And Mark Zuckerberg opened up the API to allow developers to go and develop apps on Facebook. And I was there, right place, right time. I had some ideas for some fun little games that we could put on Facebook and where people could like write on each other's walls and, you know, tag each other and do all this weird stuff. And
Hmm.
I come up with some ideas and I had to learn like a lot quickly about entrepreneurship. So I started going through this journey of like reading books, just foundational books, like how to think or how to win friends and influence people, Think
Hmm.
and Grow Rich,
Hmm.
As a Man Thinketh,
Right.
like books on sales, and kind of getting coached by these like people that would sell you CDs on like how to be an entrepreneur, how to be your own boss, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I got scammed quite a bit, like on my journey to try to be an entrepreneur. But like when I found the Facebook API was opening up, and I just would scour the forums, and I'd be like, "Hey, does anybody have any ideas they want me to work on with them?" And I didn't have much money at the time, but I was like, "I'll buy your app if you don't want it anymore," because I just wanted to learn. I was buying scripts and apps from people for like $500 and flipping them for like a few $1,000s profit type of thing back then. And then I had some ideas myself, and I ended up recruiting a friend from Nova Scotia that was a developer to like build one of my ideas for me. And I hired a designer off of Kijiji to do the graphics for it. And it was like, bootstrapped right in the basement. There was like 3 of us, me, the developer, and the business guy. And we ended up getting 1 million downloads on the app, and it blew up. And I started making like $100,000 a month for, in a matter of like months. I went from just being completely broke and no idea to what I'm doing to like successfully having launched like an app company from my basement.
What was the app?
It was just a bunch of random little ones. This was before like this was before Farmville and Playfish and all those big companies came in and kind of made the really super hyper popular ones like Candy Crush and Farmville and all that stuff. So you probably wouldn't have heard of mine. It was actually like a Canadian version of a social game. It was basically like I took the idea from Tim Hortons Roll Up the Rim, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to be able to like roll up virtual coffee cups and win virtual prizes on Facebook? So I made a version of Roll Up the Rim to win on Facebook.
How did an app like that make money back in the day? So you would have to, as a user, you would have to pay something to progress?
No,
in
it
the
was
game?
all ads. It was just
Just
like
ads.
it was all virtual currency. So we had this fake currency. It was Brim Bucks, where you could win the fake currency by rolling up cups, and you had objectives and whatever. You wanted to collect all the sets of the virtual prizes, just like the real roll up the rim to win. There's you want to get all the different like McDonald's Monopoly does it too, right? Where you collect all the stamps and whatever. So it was like basically taking that idea, putting it on Facebook, making it Canadian and fun, and then showing ads to people.
Nice.
And it was like, yeah, it was early days and kind of Wild West, and we were able to get lucky and strike some gold there, and it lasted for a couple years. And then I kind of like tried to scale that company up, but for the first time in my life, I had succeeded at this idea of trying to make some money. And so I made the movie. I went and did it. My sister's actually a documentary filmmaker now, but at the time she just graduated film school, and I hired her and all of her film school friends, and we went out and we like had 21 different like crews and cast members, and we went out in the woods for like 21 days.
21 days, 21 members.
That's the lucky number, man.
There are no coincidences.
Yeah, that was 2008, so still before Bitcoin. But like after I made the movie, it was during the financial collapse. All that whole shit was going down at the time, and so I didn't actually release the film until 2011 because it cost another $50,000 to do post-production. I hadn't budgeted the final, the finishing budget. I only budgeted what it's going to cost to make the movie.
So Brad, tell me, when you started making money, so you started making money somewhere around 2005, 2006, you started making a lot of money every month. Were you investing it at the time?
It was probably 2007, 8 when I started making money. For the first 2 years, it was a lot of getting scammed and learning lessons and reading books and studying and trying to make it work, and reinvesting it all back into more learning and stuff. When I did start making money, the first thing I did was make the movie and see that dream through. And then the second thing I did was build a house. So my wife and I decided to build a house and buy a new car. Well, we leased a Ford Edge back in the day. Had a moonroof. It was like, I'm up in the middle class now, baby. No more used car for $2,000. The engine's shaking out of her. I'm gonna buy at least a new car. So I got the car. We built the house, and I remember at the time thinking like, what a scam these house prices are. We built the house for $270,000, and I was like, this is insane. Like, this is so overpriced. I can't believe a middle class house cost $270,000. Like my grandmother's house back home at the time was like worth $40,000. So
Where
I
was
was
the
like
house?
in Cape Breton.
Okay.
So in Cape Breton, like the housing market was suppressed a lot, right? Because it was an economic depression for a while, and there was not a lot of investment going on in the real estate market. So I came from where you could go get like 3, 4, 5 acres of oceanfront property for like 40 grand and have like a beautiful life. To you go to Ontario, you get like a middle class home on a quarter acre in the middle of like a sardine can neighborhood, and it's like 5 times, 10 times the price. So it took a lot for me to like rationalize to put the down payment and get
Right.
the mortgage to build that
And
house.
now even just the down payment will be 200 grand.
Yeah, and it's gone even crazier. So at that time, like you asked if I was investing, well, I was investing in myself. I was like investing in more courses to try to learn more about entrepreneurship. I joined some mastermind communities, and I started like networking more and paying for coaching, trying to put new skills in my brain. And I
Hmm.
invested in the house because I was thinking, well, even though it's overpriced, what else am I going to do with this money? And I started reinvesting into the business. And then so like pretty much all of my profits, I was reinvesting back into the business to try to grow it. But that ended up being probably the dumbest move I ever made, because at the time Bitcoin was being launched and I could have just put the whole thing into Bitcoin.
Hmm.
But I had this extra money, and I had been reading books as I was trying to level up as an entrepreneur, like Rich Dad Poor Dad by
Hmm.
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep.
And he talks about the quadrant, right, of
The
like
four
whether,
quadrants. Yeah.
well, yeah. What is it stand for again? It's like
Um,
entrepreneur,
employee,
employee,
investor, uh,
investor,
entrepreneur. What's the
and then
fourth one?
something else. Like just
Landlord. I don't know.
yeah. So
Can't remember.
it's like there's the 4 quadrants, right? And I remember there was a section in that book where he talked about gold and the history of gold, and how the dollar had lost 99% of its value over the last 100 years. And so like I was being exposed at the time to this Austrian economics sort of foundational principles of the way that, money has changed since in our lifetimes. In the last
Hmm.
100 years, it's gone from being based off of scarcity and sound money, and gone more towards unelected bankers and politicians creating money from nothing and pulling levers on the economy, and allowing banks to have the license to print money based off of demand for money for people just wanting credit. And how that as we're taught to save in dollars, pay off your debts, get a good job, whatever, it kind of is a way to just keep you stuck in this rat race that Robert Kiyosaki described it as. And that lined up with, like, at the time I think at the time Ron Paul had been pretty popular on the internet and on YouTube for his views that, like, don't steal, the government hates competition. He's a
Hmm.
congressman that was like the libertarian congressman that ran for president in 2008 and 2012.
Hmm.
And so even though I'm Canadian, like I just felt like politically homeless in Canada. I wasn't really motivated to follow Canadian politics. The US dollar, the Federal Reserve, all that stuff seemed like it was more of an effect on Canada than what our policies were at the time. So I was just like, why am I going to bother learning about the Canadian system? Like, I should learn about the American system, because Canada is such a small part of the world, and if I want to be able to grow my wealth and protect myself, and I got to learn what's going on in the world, not what's going on in Canada. So I spent a lot of time on learning about like how the world operates, how the US operates, the bank system, the taxation system of other countries, stuff like that. And I got introduced to these like libertarian ideas of property rights, sound money, individual liberty,
In
all this
2011,
stuff. 2011, yeah, it was like 20. Actually, it was like 2010 was around
how did
when,
you how did you come across all of those concepts in 2010?
like,
It
like
was
I'm
definitely
saying, it
not in
was.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
What's that?
I said those concepts were definitely not in Rich Dad Poor Dad. So
No, it
where
was
did
like
you?
adjacent. It was kind of adjacent. I mean, I was on the internet, and I was like trying to be an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurs typically like to be sovereign, right? They like to be their own boss. So there's a lot of independent thought that goes on there. So I would have people sharing videos with me, like, here, watch this YouTube video on the history of taxes, or watch this YouTube video about this congressman who thinks that taxation is theft, this Ron Paul guy. So I was exposed to these ideas that as the financial crisis was happening, entrepreneurs and wealthy people were like kind of waking up to this problem of the bailouts and how unfair this is, that CEOs of these huge companies can make all the mistakes and then they get their losses are socialized by the public and they get bailed out. So I just got exposed through kind of living through that, coming up as an entrepreneur when the great financial crisis was happening, and learning through like books like Rich Dad Poor Dad and stuff about gold. So I was like, I don't really trust the stock market if they're going to just bail out all these companies that should be going bankrupt. None of this seems very safe or real. Like, I don't know how to even value any of this stuff. So I'm just going to try to like invest in things that are real and scarce and that can't be printed and inflated.
Mm-hmm.
So that brought me towards buying physical gold and silver. So as I started buying the gold and silver and kind of seeking out that information about not really so much stocks and traditional like index fund investing and stuff to get like 5 to 10% a year, I was like, well, I want to have something that's going to grow faster and protect myself from collapse. Because what if the banks can't be bailed out because they're based off of a system that could fail?
You wanted something asymmetric.
It wasn't even that at the point. It wasn't like I was looking for asymmetric Bitcoin like returns at the time. It was more like I just wanted to preserve my purchasing power. I wasn't like, I didn't want to become a stock picker. So like everything that was going on at the time required a lot of time to research it. And I had to, like, if you remember around the time when the big nuclear power plant melted down in Japan and Fukushima, that was going on around that time as well. And like the power plant company in Japan was collapsing in price and all the uranium companies were tanking. And I was like, I don't know what to make of all this stuff. Like, it was a tumultuous time in markets and things were moving around like seemingly not based on fundamentals. And I was kind of like, I did like to listen to people like Ray Dalio and Warren Buffett. And I read the book Snowball, which is all about Warren Buffett's life and his investing philosophy and stuff. And it just didn't seem like value investing was what was going on. It seemed like everything was based off the money printer.
Right.
So I wanted to just have something that was not correlated to fake money printing gains. And gold and silver, it's funny at the time, like when I had built the house and I was an entrepreneur and I had some extra money and I was like, what do I do with the money? I started buying the gold and silver, like physical gold and silver, and I had to import it in from the States. I ordered an order of like physical silver, 10-ounce bars, right, from this, I don't know where it was, company in the States.
Right.
Everybody thought I was nuts buying these physical silver bars.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, like going on YouTube, searching like how do you import silver to Canada, because they were trying to charge me like income or GST on it, and I was like, I don't want to pay an extra 10% for my silver. Like, this is bullion. You're not supposed to pay tax on that. And so there's an import code that you can write on the package when you're ordering from the States. At least you could back then. So I had followed a couple of YouTubers that were Canadians that were like also buying gold and silver, and they would share their thoughts on the news and what was going on and stuff. And this one guy that I followed, like one day he mentioned Bitcoin, and it was like, he was like, silver's at $50 right now, and I think it's going to go to like $500. So you got to get yourself some silver. And of course, gold's at $600 an ounce. I think it's going to $6,000 an ounce. You got to get yourself some gold. And if you like gold and silver, you should check out this new thing called Bitcoin. It's a digital gold. It's like a digital version of gold and silver. And that was my introduction to Bitcoin in 2011. I was like, what the
So
heck?
that's the first narrative you heard. Digital gold
Yeah.
was literally the first narrative.
Yeah, it was
That's
like, and
that's a
I was
huge
like,
advantage. That's a huge
yeah.
advantage right there, right? Because I was just listening to a Joe Rogan clip, and the first time that he heard about Bitcoin, like that was the name of the clip, and someone asked him, "Hey, have you heard about this Bitcoin thing?" And Rogan was like, "No," and that guy was like, "Oh, uh, and then he went into it's all about Silk Road, and you can buy drugs with it, or you can buy whatever you want with it, and so I think your first exposure to it being the digital gold narrative is a huge leg up from being introduced to it as, hey, this is like a shady thing.
Yeah, for me, like because I was an early technology adopter, like you being on Facebook in 2007, and I was using like whatever. I'm just even now, I'm still like enthralled by early technology, and I try things probably before most people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like these Claude bots that are going around now. I'm like jonesing to get one set up and have an AI agent, like or a team of them, right? But back then I was already kind of like radicalized by the unfairness of realizing I was born into this system where I was preyed on like profit meat by banks to go take a
Mm-hmm.
loan to go to college, go get myself in debt for a car, go get myself in debt for a student loan, and then charged high interest rates on credit cards when
Mm-hmm.
the money is actually created from nothing. It doesn't. I was under this old antiquated ideal that what most people thought was, oh, the money's backed by gold, and when they loan you money, there's somebody that's going to lose if you don't pay it back because they're loaning you something that exists, and it's
Mm-hmm.
your duty to pay it back and to be fair and honest and whatever. So like we were kind of born into this fake system that didn't exist, that
Mm-hmm.
existed at one point but didn't for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Born into this idea of like it's a consumerist treadmill thing, right? Where it's capitalism is it's not really capitalism, it's consumerism, it's planned obsolescence. It's like you need the inflation needs to happen, everything has to get more expensive even
Mm-hmm.
though it should get cheaper. The capitalist consumerist fake capitalist corporatism system we live in is it needs price inflation, it needs planned obsolescence, it needs electronic waste, it needs all this stuff, it needs you to be in debt for it to work.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the whole thing will fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they think. So when I
Right.
realized that, like, okay, I went down that rabbit hole and I kind of realized I had been born into this system that was a complete lie. It
Mm-hmm.
radicalized me a bit, and I got pissed off. I was like, "Why am I charged? Why am I getting charged 20% interest on a credit card that the bank makes the money from nothing based on my signature? The money doesn't exist. They will it into existence based on me wanting the money, and then they charge me 20% on it. That's unethical. It's
Mm-hmm.
like usury. So that combined with my like love and fun, like having fun with new technology, my love of technology and growing up on the internet, um, plus my understanding through entrepreneurship of protecting the nut, right? Like you got to protect your monthly nut, you got to like protect your burn rate, you got to find where to protect your money, grow your wealth. Plus with that mindset of like those three things that hearing, and plus I grew up Mormon. I was a Mormon as a kid, so I had all these like values instilled in me as a kid about like drinking coffee was evil. So there was like no way I was going on Silk Road because I had this in my head that like
Right.
I had all these like programming things from when I was a kid about like, I gotta be a charitable person, a good person. You can't swear, you can't you gotta follow the commandments, all this stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
So so yeah, I would just right time, right place, right mindset,
Right.
coachable, ready to learn. I had no kind of like, oh, this is a scam, this isn't real, like, this is I can't touch it. Like I didn't have any of that stuff. I was like perfect to receive Bitcoin at the time and I just dove right in. It
Do you
became an
believe it's
obsession.
do you believe it's karmic?
Oh, I don't know. It could be. That's a good thought. Like maybe it happened for me.
Yeah, maybe you did something in your last life.
Yeah, maybe it's payback for being a good person.
Yeah, could be. No, that's very, very interesting, Brad. Thank you for sharing. Um, and how do
Yeah,
you feel about?
hopefully there's some people listening to that can kind of relate, that are maybe like into technology, into entrepreneurship. You know, they're just new Beaver customers and they're kind of buying their first Bitcoin, or they're buying the dip, and like there's definitely some contention around the political side of Bitcoin, and I'm trying not to be too libertarian-y, because you may have some listeners that are liberals or NDPs or whatever, and I don't want to be judging like what someone's political beliefs are, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of people. It is a weighted thing, like in the early days, especially, that there was a lot of people that came to Bitcoin because of things like Silk Road and hardcore libertarianism and anarchism and all this stuff.
Mhm.
But being Canadian, I've always struggled with the idea of like, I benefited from the social safety net when I was growing up in Cape Breton. Like all my friends and family were on EI, and I was living in government housing for a while. So if it wasn't for the social safety net, I don't know where I'd be. But I also see, because I've done so much work learning about Bitcoin and money and wealth inequality, that the reason why the prices are broken and people are struggling so much right now is because of overspending and too much social safety net, unchecked and unmeasured, and it's almost like weaponized empathy, to which actually ends up creating wealth inequality. So like in Cape Breton, I've got a lot of family and stuff. Even around here in Ontario now, I'm seeing tons of people struggling, food
Mhm.
banks, heart can't pay their bills. Yeah, it's like, wouldn't it's tough. It's a tough job to be at the top and run a country like Canada.
Right. So, Brad, how do you feel about, Bitcoin price and, the recent FUD that's been going on? And, as someone who's so OG, started buying Bitcoin in, did you start buying in 2010, 2011?
2011.
You've been scaling in since then. I saw you post on X that you bought the dip even yesterday. You mentioned your dad bought the dip yesterday. So, what's your general view on price and FUD, and how do you look at these things from a financial and psychological perspective?
Yeah, I mean it's quite a journey that I went through personally, and I think a lot of people go through this journey in their own way, where they they try to like time the markets, and they try to like trade. They try to like beat Bitcoin through selling when the price is high and then buying back when it's lower, or starting to mess with the altcoins, or messing around with whatever trend in the stock market is happening. Um, and it's very difficult to do that, but everybody's got to learn their own lessons. Like, I mean, some people just take the advice. They defer their decisions financially to someone who's kind of got the experience, which is smart. I think, what's that quote? An idiot learns from his own mistakes, and a genius learns from the mistakes of others, or something like
Right,
that.
right. Hmm.
And so I've got a lot of
It's a lot cheaper to learn from other people's mistakes.
yeah, and it's a lot smarter as well. So I've learned a lot of lessons through being dumb and going off as one of the pioneers of something and trying to learn things myself. And I've gotten stronger and smarter for the lessons I've learned, but I'm still learning them. So I don't know if, like, I don't want to be prescribing anybody advice. This is what I've learned and experienced and works for me. But the dollar cost average strategy and the buy and hold strategy has always ended up being, for me, even being in since 2011, the best strategy.
Hmm.
Like, I will never get back to the amount of Bitcoin I had in 2011. It's not possible for me to catch back up to how much Bitcoin I had when I first started, because it was $10 a coin.
Right.
And the first thing I did when I got into Bitcoin, it was $10.
Hmm.
And within a couple of months, because when I first heard about it from that YouTuber, it was $5. And he was actually seeing on his YouTube channel, it was $1 when he posted the video. I found it like a couple of months after he posted it. It was
Right.
$1 a coin. in
So even the psychology of paying 10 when you've seen it at 1 and 5.
No, it wasn't that for me, but it was like it was 5 when I heard about it, and he was actually saying, if you're a viewer of mine, if you're subscribed to my channel, I will guarantee you, if you buy Bitcoin, that it won't go below $1. If you lose any money, I'll pay you back. So he was so confident Bitcoin was going to be staying above $1. He was giving guarantees to people. So,
Okay.
but I didn't even need that. It was just exciting enough for me to go into it. But I felt FOMO. I was like, I missed the boat. Like, I got to get involved in this quickly. Like, I really got to hustle and get some more Bitcoin. I got to get as much as I can because I'm already missing it. And it was $10, by the time I got some. And then went to 30 that summer, and I sold half my Bitcoin. And
You're like, oh, I did a 3x. I'm so smart.
yeah, it was like, what do I
Yeah.
do? I was asking my friends and stuff, like, what should I do? I put money into this thing, and it's gone up to $30. I bought it at 10, and of course everybody was like, well, the best thing you can do is take out
Take
your
profit.
initial investment, and then you're playing with the house's money. And I was like, okay, I guess that's what people are saying, so I should do that. So I did that. I sold half the Bitcoin. I took out my initial plus a little bit, and then I just kind of was like letting it ride. But that ended up being the dumbest financial decision I ever made in my life, was selling Bitcoin that early. And I didn't realize until after, it's like, why would you take advice from poor people? Like if your doctor's like 200 pounds overweight, are you going to take his diet advice? Probably not, right? Or at least you shouldn't. So it was just, I don't know why at the time I didn't know anything about investing. I was an entrepreneur. I was like a hustler. I was like trying to make money. I was trying to make movies. I was like learning about making money. I didn't know anything about money. And that's a big difference. So at the time, it's like, I don't know anything about trading. I don't know anything about investing. I guess I'll just get advice from people who I think are wealthier than me, but really they're kind of not wealthy. They just got tons of debt, and they're just earning 5% a year or something on ETFs that they own, that their advisor's taking a big cut of. So I just asked the wrong people for advice, and I just took the advice and learned an expensive lesson. And the advice, I was very convicted in Bitcoin, but I was like, I don't want to be like making bad moves. But if you believe in Bitcoin and you understand what you're buying, just hold the thing for as long as you possibly can. Like, what's the point unless you get up to a significant portion of your net worth is all in Bitcoin? If you go all in on Bitcoin and you want to be able to have a cushion for survival in case a bear market happens and you got to sell some for that or take a loan on it or whatever, those are different conversations. But for the 99% of people that are listening to this, they probably don't have enough Bitcoin. They probably need to get more Bitcoin at whatever the price is in order to get to what they should have as a target allocation. So most folks, maybe they're buying because they found Beaver on their own, or maybe they're buying because they got an advisor or somebody that's helping them out. And a good exercise that everybody should do is to go through your net worth, including all real estate, including your business equity and everything that you own, and then look at what percentage of your net worth is Bitcoin, including a liquid net worth. So if you're an angel investor, all your liquid safes and stuff. If you're a business owner, how much is the equity value of your business? Do that exercise of actually going through and auditing your financials and see how much of my net worth is Bitcoin. And if it's only 5% or something, it doesn't matter what these prices are. You should be buying as much as you possibly can until you get to your target. So
Just stay humble. Just stay humble and stack sats.
Just set a target and stick to the plan. If you want to say have how much of your net worth do you want to be able to basically be shielded from inflation and grow faster than inflation? I mean, most people it should be 100%, but but there's a lot of work that needs to be done to learn about why Bitcoin is so valuable and why it's going to win over the long term. So not everybody's got the conviction level where they can be so heavily allocated to Bitcoin. So learning about Bitcoin through podcasts like this is a great idea. Obviously listening to the greats like Michael Saylor has a really good way of explaining Bitcoin and distilling the
For sure.
concepts down. But just doing whatever you can to get your conviction up and understanding not just Bitcoin, but money and how the history of money works. And once you have that level, I mean, like I do, you can make long-term moves. So for me, in the past, like I said, first mistake I made was I sold half my Bitcoin at 30, which was stupid. But then it crashed down to 2 after that, and I thought I was a genius. I was like, oh, what a good move that was. Instead, I should have bought it all back plus more at 2. I just was like, I'm just letting it ride. I'm letting it ride. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, I had the opportunity to like 5x my stack back up, and I didn't do it because I was also building my business at the time, right? I was still an entrepreneur. I had my gaming company, and I was making the movie and all that stuff. But then later on in the same thing happens. I've been through this is now the 5th or so real deep bear market correction that I've been through. They get shallower each time, but still sucks to see your net worth drop
by half.
But the more conviction I have, the more my mind is able to understand that this is temporary and it's actually an opportunity to get ahead. But my body still reacts, honestly. I still get tense. I still get anxious. So I'm working on that right now of trying to be aware of what's happening with my physiology in my body. Cause I've been through, there's this really good book I read by Tony Robbins called Money Master the Game. You ever hear of that one?
No, I haven't.
It was like 2015 it was released, something like that, maybe 16. And he interviewed Ray Dalio because he coaches everybody. He coaches presidents and he coaches the CEOs of all the big tech companies like Jeff Bezos and Ray Dalio and all this stuff. He's like the top coach in the world for mindset and goal setting and stuff, right? So people like Jeff Bezos or Mark Benioff from Salesforce are like, this company wouldn't exist in the way it is without Tony Robbins. So I was hearing that stuff and I was like, okay, I better read his book then. So in the Money Master the Game book, he does a lot. He talks a lot about index investing because that's the way Ray Dalio does it.
Okay.
So I didn't obviously do the index investing. I'm a Bitcoiner. I understand Bitcoin. Tony Robbins also talks about gold, which, whatever. But the concepts behind that book are really smart. And so when I read that book, I was still struggling. At the time, it was my business had failed because that Facebook gaming business eventually went to zero because the big companies came in, like the Zyngas and the Playfishes and EA and all that stuff. They started taking over and they just completely came in and dominated from all the indie developers. So my income went basically to zero, and I still had my Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin at the time was only worth like $200 each, So I had kind of survived this crazy crash, and then 2013-14 comes back, Bitcoin comes back into the headlines, takes my attention back. I'm back in building businesses. I start mining Bitcoin again, invest money into mining. I start messing around with trading, investing in altcoins, all that stuff, trying to get more Bitcoin. And as an entrepreneur, right, I'm trying to make money. And then you start another crash happens and the thing goes down 90% over the next couple of years. So it's oh my God, again, this is crazy. I believe in this thing and I know what it is. I know what it's going to eventually potentially be, but I don't know if I should be spending all my time on this. This is tough to deal with.
Right.
Because I was all in on it, right? I was I really believed in it. But so I was kind of half of a 1 foot entrepreneur. I guess I got 3 feet in this scenario. I got 1 foot as an entrepreneur, 1 foot as a trader, and 1 foot as an investor, a believer, a Bitcoin maximalist kind of philosophical activist guy. And these 3 personalities were kind of grabbing the ship wheel and trying to steer in different directions during the cycles. So those were the things, right? Like I was basically, then I started reading books like Money Master the Game, and started learning about trend following. And this book, What I Learned Losing $1 Million, was really helpful to kind of learn about the philosophy of the psychology that goes into like being able to hold through volatile periods, like Warren Buffett's books, the book about Warren Buffett's Snowball, Market Wizards. I just started consuming all of these books about the history of trading, previous trading bubbles, and, you know, books about like, what's that one? Jesse Livermore, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator.
Okay.
Stuff like that, just to learn about like risk management, portfolio management, how the big investors think and operate. And then, you know, 2017 comes around, Bitcoin roars back. We're up to $20,000 a coin again. It's like, oh, I'm right, you know. So yeah, it's every time we learn something new, but also there's like this like almost financial trauma that happens when you're all in on Bitcoin with anything. If anybody's ever gone through something like they went bankrupt, or they lost their house, or a business goes to zero on them, or any of those events that are really tough financially, you can kind of internalize that. Your body your physiology can kind of like learn programming of like going into fight and flight or freeze mode when volatility comes, financial volatility. So I didn't realize this until just this last week here, that I had this traumatic kind of programming in my body from previous financial trauma events from my childhood, growing up in poverty, losing our house, my parents having to go bankrupt, you know, all these things. Like I lost my scholarship. I thought I was going to college paid, but like I lost my scholarship. Like just crazy shit happened to me when I was young financially that got programmed into my body as a like a danger, you know? So I'm kind of going through this process now of learning about somatics and financial trauma and stuff. It's what's fresh in my mind. But the other day when the Bitcoin price crashed, like I've modeled out the risk of Bitcoin like going down to like $10,000 and I'd be fine. So I know in my mind that anything that's around this price is like an opportunity to buy the dip, or to smash the crash, really, is what this is. Because a 50% dip is not a dip, it's a crash, let's be honest. And the price has crashed from 125 or whatever it was down to 60 some. Initially when it was under 90 and it was in the 80s and then the 70s, like I was starting to get all this back. My shoulders got really tense, my back started tightening up, I was getting sore, I was feeling
You spoke about
anxious.
that. You spoke about that on the stage in the Canadian Bitcoin conference in October. You said you were starting to feel your back pain signal come back, and you felt that it was not because of Bitcoin, it was because of Bitcoin treasury companies.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
You
another one. That was another
you
lesson
have a
I
back
learned this
pain
year.
signal. You have a back pain signal.
Yeah, and so in the 2017 situation, what happened was I was like working for a crypto fund at the time. I joined this, you know, I became, you know, an employee or whatever of a crypto fund, and they were doing a lot of ICO stuff in like Ethereum and crypto. And so I was like doing research for them and investing the money. Like I was on the investment committee, and we were just like flying around, going to conferences, meeting these teams or whatever. And at the time I was like a Bitcoiner, and the block size war was happening. So again, part of me is an entrepreneur looking at these ICOs being like, well, maybe this is going to disrupt venture capital. I don't know. Maybe there's something real here. Maybe there will be a reason to have a coin for walking dogs and that will be worth billions of dollars. I don't know. Like, why is there shares that are worth billions of dollars when there's no real value in what they're doing? tech companies are losing money all the time. Like, who's to say that, like, just because it's a stock ticker that it's different? Like, why can't a coin be worth something? So that's where my mind was, because I was an entrepreneur. But then I also have this like libertarian minded Austrian economist, Bitcoin maximalist, free speech guy that's also living in my brain, being like, those things are scams, people are getting wrecked, like this is all scams, like don't buy this stuff and don't participate. And then I got like my Bitcoin investor guy that's like, I need more Bitcoin, you need to get more Bitcoin, you gotta like do what you can to get more Bitcoin. So at the time, 2017, I was like going through this thing of like, well, I'm living in another bubble. And so I was participating in it through the fund, and wow, what a crazy ride that was. The fund like went up like probably like 20x in value, and we were just crushing it. But at the same time, also, it wasn't my fund, I was just part of it. And I was like, they invited me in on the like exec team type of stuff because of my experience previously with Bitcoin and when they liked me or whatever. But then I also got to see the like shady side of crypto. I was in the room when they're having conversations about like, you know, this coin team is like pretending to be a decentralized network, and they're like paying this exchange $1 million to pump the coin so that they can get their founder shares out. I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is like Wolf of Wall Street stuff. Like, how is this legal? And, oh, it's decentralized, it's crypto, it's blah, blah, blah. So eventually I was like, I can't do this. And I actually never ended up taking any payment from them. I just felt, I just was like, I don't know. This is like not what I want to be doing. And I lost a bunch of money too. I was investing along with the fund, and then I was making some money, and then it all went to zero, and I lost a bunch of on paper money. So it was like another wild experience of learning all about what not to do, and how to, like, seeing massive paper profits just evaporate. You know, internalizing like, oh my God, I did this. I made 100x on this thing. And then actually it goes to zero and you didn't have anything really because it was all fake. But it took like a year and a half for that bubble to blow up and everybody to realize like, oh, there's actually nothing here. There's no liquidity on these things. So over that like year and a half, it was another event. And that's where the back pain indicator came in, because in that time where I went through that super stressful event, Bitcoin was also dropping, but not nearly as much as all the other ICO stuff and crypto stuff. Like a lot of that stuff went down like 99% or completely to zero. But Bitcoin went down quite a bit. And it was like, I'm like a Bitcoin guy mostly at this point. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist when it comes to like the block size wars. I'm like fighting in the trenches on Twitter, arguing with people about why the Bitcoin Cash is nonsense and why, you know, the VCs that are investing in all this stuff shouldn't be, and they should be backing Bitcoin developers, and the block sizes matter, and we got to keep the blocks small, and we got to, you know, decentralization above all else and all this stuff, while also watching my net worth completely plummet. And at that time I took out, I was just selling some money, selling some Bitcoin based off my rules that I had learned from the past when I had already survived 2 crashes. I was like, I'm just going to sell like 5% chunks here and there just to have a cushion. And so I was selling 5%, I would sell another 5%, sell another 5%. And before you know it, like the Bitcoin price is all the way back down from 20,000 to like 4,000 or something like that, but in 2020. And I looked at my portfolio one day, I did a reconciliation, and I only had like 25% of my net worth in Bitcoin at that point. And because at that point, I was like following Real Vision. I was like, I'm going to become a macro guy. I'm going to understand portfolio management. I'm a Bitcoiner, Bitcoin maximalist at heart, but like I can't be all in on Bitcoin. Doesn't make sense. It's too risky. My backs can't handle it. I got to sell down to the sleeping point. You know, like Ray Dalio and all these guys, they have their own back pain indicators. And then I realized, what the hell did I just do? Like I spent like a year and a half basically being, you know, okay, fine. I had some cushion, but now Michael Saylor's aping into Bitcoin, and all these banks and stuff are getting back involved in Bitcoin. The price is running up, and I'm like, I don't have enough Bitcoin. What did I do? I got to get back. I got to get the Bitcoin back.
Right.
So I started trying to buy the Bitcoin back in 2020, and again, obviously I didn't get my Bitcoin back. I didn't get it all back. I was buying it. I bought what I sold probably like twice as high as what I'd sold it at, and then I never got it all back in the end, anyways. So another lesson learned,
It's so
just
interesting, right? So you constantly feel like never sell your Bitcoin is the answer, but then when you actually go through that volatility, you have this, physical body pain reaction. So it's like this constant fight between, you know, I know that this is the apex asset and, you know, the body reacting, right? Like it's
yeah. And what I
and
decided to
that
do,
body reacting could be different for different people, right? Like that's just your thing, but for
yeah,
someone else it could be
I'm sure
something
it's
else.
similar for lots of people, like fight and flight response, fight, flight, freeze, that psychosomatic response to something traumatic or whatever, a trigger, known trigger. Like I'm sure it shows up for everybody listening to this in some way, whether it's like an argument or some sort of PTSD thing that you've been traumatized by. Like everybody's got a reaction to something that's like a flooding, like you flood and like become tense and anxiety ridden and whatever. And I always assumed that it was because I was paying too much attention to
Hmm.
the price, and
Hmm.
because I was like absorbed by like following Twitter and all that stuff. And so in 2023, after because then we had that crazy run up in 2021 and 2020, and I was very active again, still following the news, but this time I was like out there warning the bells about all the scams that were going on, and I was like trying to convince people not to use Celsius and BlockFi and all these DeFi protocols, Luna, Terra, all that stuff. And I spent a lot of my time ringing the alarm bell, and I'd saved a bunch of people a bunch of money, but in the end it was like all I was doing was focusing on negative stuff.
Hmm.
And again, the back pain came back when the prices all started to come down, even though I saw everything coming. And this
Hmm.
time I had taken some kind of like insurance against, I always seem to like figure out a way to make it so that I'm going to be able to survive the bear market. But this time, I realized like in 2023, like after that process of, okay, now I've survived 4 of these crashes. I react differently each time. I learn lessons each time. I don't take as much risk. I'm being more conservative each time. I'm kind of like honing in on my integrity and my values and trying to like use my monetary energy and my focus on like focusing on like the positive stuff about like promoting Bitcoin. As time goes by, it's less and less like I'm caring about. First, it was like participating in crypto in the early days, like, oh, this is all interesting. I want to have some of this stuff and networking in with those people. And then it was like participating and doing the ICOs with the fund and all that stuff. And then it was experimenting with the DeFi so I could be a critic of it. And so I could show people where the scam was so they could spending a lot of my time like on this stuff. And, a lot of my friends are involved in that stuff too. So I was like with them, talking with them. But just spending way too much time on this thing that I didn't even like. I didn't even like it, right? So, and in the end, it was like it all blew up like I thought it would, and people were just mad at me because I told them what was right. And so, in 2023, I realized like, okay, this back pain thing is probably because I'm paying too much attention to negative stuff, and I'm watching the news too much. Like I have a thesis on Bitcoin. I know why Bitcoin's going to win. And I even know why in a depression, like if we go into a new depression, why Bitcoin will probably grow in that deflationary bust, credit
Hmm.
bust environment because it's so small in the world. And as more and more people learn about Bitcoin, it's going to grow even from like
Yeah.
a constricted
No,
credit.
nothing stops this train, right? I mean, you've got a $1.5 trillion asset that's um, better than gold and being admitted by everyone that it's digital gold, and gold is a trillion dollar assets.
Yeah,
You've got a
stocks
30x
are
in front of you.
hundreds of trillions of dollars of stocks,
Bonds are
and
300 trillion.
derivatives. Yeah, so like when you look at Bitcoin, it's nothing
Mhm.
compared to all that stuff. And if more and more of us join as a sovereign sort of Bitcoin evangelists or whatever, it can only grow. And
Mhm.
so I realized like I don't need to really be doing any of this, and the least thing I should be doing is watching the news and
Right.
paying attention to crypto. Like, who cares? I don't care about that anymore. So I made a decision. I like cut myself off in 2023, like end of 2023. I cut myself off from commenting about crypto, caring about crypto, reading about crypto, watching CoinGecko charts and all this stuff. I was like, no more of that. Like, I'm cutting that completely out. I'm going to start going to the gym because the way to get rid of the back pain is because it just means it's like a cortisol buildup and you have to like work the muscles to like work it out. So I had these rigs and these machines and these bands and stuff that I would do like back exercises or whatever to relieve it, and some massagers and stuff like that. But I'm like, I just got to go to the gym. I just got to actually do the work. So every day, go to the gym every day, like get stronger and disconnect from it all. And then hopefully then the back pain indicator will go away because I'll have the conviction in Bitcoin. And then what happened to me was I got the FOMO back when the treasury company stuff started happening. Michael Saylor ignited this insane treasury company bubble with MicroStrategy going parabolic, and all these treasury companies got started up. And I get contacted by them all because, not all of them, but like a bunch of them, because I'm like this old Bitcoin guy that, people probably think I have way more Bitcoin than I do just because I was in Bitcoin early. But they're like, oh, you want to be part of our company? You can get in the private placement and all this stuff. So I start deploying some of my Bitcoin to buy shares in these Bitcoin treasury companies, because I'm like, well, it's not really trading because I believe in these things long term. Like
Still Bitcoin exposure. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, like it could work out. I didn't really believe in like the idea of most of them, but I was like, there was like a few of them that I did think like, okay, the team, I like the team. They're Bitcoiners. I trust them. They're not going to sell the Bitcoin. They're not going to start flipping it to a Dogecoin treasury company. So I was pretty picky with who I backed, and I also thought like, okay, well, I do want to have some assets in the traditional system because the banks won't give me loans for mortgage and whatever. Like they just look at me like I'm a crazy homeless person when I go into the bank. It helps that I shaved my beard, but my beard used to be like down to my belly button, right? It was,
I know.
It was bear market beard. So I was like, okay, I got a strategy. I'm going to put some.
Are you going to grow the beard again? Are you growing the beard again for this crash?
I was going to, but then I was like, I'm shedding that identity. I'm like, I'm no longer going to associate my body with bear markets. You know what I mean? Because that's what I was doing. I had this contract with myself that like, I'm growing a playoff beard. And as long as the bear market was going, my beard would get longer. But then I realized that was like just a way to internalize the negative price, and like it would show up on my body, So I was like, that's not smart, actually.
Okay.
So I abandoned that a couple months ago. But yeah, so I had this idea that I was going to have some assets in the traditional system through Bitcoin treasury companies, and then I could use that as collateral for getting credit worthiness in the fake fiat system. I'd have some fake Bitcoin exposure and get some fake credit, that type of thing. But that ended up being, this writing on the wall was there in the summer. And then when I was speaking at the Bitcoin Treasury Conference, I was having crazy back pain because I knew bad move. I shouldn't have been in that stuff. I should have sold it all. But then I was like, oh, this is a tough position to be in. So I kind of went against my values again there of just kind of like staying buy and hold Bitcoin, and I paid the price, and the back pain indicator came back. And then now, again, it came back again when we had that crazy crash down to below the 80s and the 90s. But then I realized like that it wasn't back pain. It was tension and fight, flight, freeze mode. Like the back pain is like a signal that I should do something. The psychosomatic like body response is like a dysrhythmia of my body and my mind to perceiving threat. So my mind knows that this drop is an opportunity, but my body thinks that this drop is a threat because from all my learning and all my experience, I've anchored Bitcoin price to expansion and safety and identity and competence and all these positive things. Well, not consciously, it still is the way that my body has associated the Bitcoin price. So when the price goes up, it means, look what we can do now, and you're right, and people think you're smart and whatever. But then when the price goes down, it's the opposite. My body perceives it as a threat. It's like the lions in the bushes that are ready to pounce. So I go into flight or fight or freeze mode, and all that stuff happens. So it's only because I've spent the last couple of years doing all this kind of work, distancing myself from following the news, following Twitter, following Bitcoin, Twitter, following crypto, and paying attention to the macro stuff. I don't do it anymore. I really created a super separated distance from myself and that stuff.
Do you have any OG friends who were buying when you were buying in 2011 and they don't care, they never check the price? Do you have friends like that?
I think there's probably some, but they likely are not they're trying to probably just protect themselves. I'm pretty sure people who say they don't care actually do care, but they don't want to be perceived as vulnerable. So they don't want to say they care. Or there's some of them that literally are fine because they have income. Like they've created companies that have income. So every month they got income coming in and it's not an issue for them. So they actually probably don't care because they haven't associated, their bodies haven't associated a price drop as a threat because they still got their businesses humming or whatever. So, I'm sure Michael Saylor doesn't care as much because he's got yachts and he's got mansions and he's got millions of income coming in every month. So
Right.
I'm
You
sure
never
he
know. I
doesn't-
mean, he probably deals with it in his own way, and
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
his 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 attitude might change when he's doing a podcast, for example. Um, but yeah, no. So I would love to hear from you, or if someone's listening to this and they're going through what you are describing, right? They're going through this, physical reaction or emotional reaction to the price. They believe in Bitcoin, but, they don't know when it will recover to all-time highs. They're feeling scared right now. The quantum FUD, for example, is like eating at them. What would your advice be to someone like that listening to this?
Yeah, it depends on what the reasoning is and where they are in their journey and what percentage of the net worth is. For me, it was like learning more and just I became more of a student of history. When in 2022, when things were looking really hairy, when the bank failures were happening, and for the first time in our lifetimes, inflation was at its highs, and there was bank failures, massive bank failures globally. There was a lot of talk about the world going back into a debt credit contraction, right? And that would create M2 money contraction, and prices would come down and everything. So that started to eat at me, and it started to freak me out, and I started getting stressed. I'm like, well, shit, if we go into that a Great Depression for 10 years, that could suck for everything. So to get rid of that stress, for me, I went and started just reading books and watching documentaries about the Great Depression. There was this really good book, The Forgotten Man. I read that, was awesome. I read the book Titan about John D. Rockefeller and the kind of his come up and the economic situation that was happening then, the political situation. So I just started to just devour information on the subject while going for walks and placing, putting healthy inputs into my head. So positive routines and disconnecting from negative routines, like scrolling Twitter and arguing about politics and stuff. So that's what helped me just get more conviction, learning more about the subject. So if something like quantum computing is really stressing you out, then I would watch read books about quantum computers and have ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or whatever give you research, and then use Notebook LM, like put the research document into Notebook LM and listen to a podcast that talks about it from the skeptic perspective, like why quantum computing is not a threat and how, like, research the solutions, research like who's solving this, what are the patterns of history for technology adoption that, show that I shouldn't be stressed out about this, kind of like adversarially attack it, be able to steelman the case from both sides. And then, like, for me, that's what helps get conviction, is just learning more. But I'm a type of person naturally that needs that. Some people might just need like a strong hand to put on their shoulder and be like, hey, we're going to be okay, man. Don't stress. Just buy the dip. So, I mean, it really depends on your personality. If you're the type of person like me that needs to kind of get that conviction, then just, figure it out and use AI as a tool to help you do it and work out, set goals, start focusing on the positive stuff. For me, that's what helped.
Love it, man. That's great advice. So, Brad, now we've reached my favorite part of this show, which is called the lightning round.
Right.
And the rules are very, very simple. So you can answer with one word or, a few words, but it just needs to be the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
All right, let's go. Brad, plank or crunches?
As in, what do I prefer?
What do you prefer, plank or crunches?
Plank or crunches? Plank. Because it's more of a fun contest.
Okay. Push-ups or pull-ups? What do you prefer? We did some push-ups
Pull-ups.
earlier. Pull-ups up. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, because they're harder.
They are harder. Okay. Bitcoin price in 2030.
1,337,000
USD or CAD?
Canadian.
I like how specific that is. Is that your favorite number or something?
It's a pretty elite number.
Okay. Best Bitcoin book you have ever read?
Probably not even a book about Bitcoin. The Price of Tomorrow actually is a really good book, and it's not really about Bitcoin. I'd say that's probably one that everybody should read.
Absolutely. Who should play you in a movie about your life?
An AI version of the guy who played Dread Pirate Roberts in Princess Diaries.
Okay. You've thought about this before? Okay. A book unrelated. No, actually, I don't.
Carrie Elways. He played the. That's where they got the Silk Road. The Silk Road Dread Pirate Roberts name was from the Princess Diaries, I think, because the guy's character in the Princess Diaries is the Dread Pirate Roberts. But everybody tells me I look like that guy Robert Elways when he was younger. So him or
Okay,
Kurt Russell when I got the beard and the hair.
Okay, I'll have to Google that. Okay, next question. A book unrelated to Bitcoin you would recommend?
I really enjoyed the book The Big Leap last year. I kind of treated it as like my study guide. So The Big Leap was a great book. And you gotta really sit with it and be coachable and be honest with yourself and really, 10 pages a day, absorb it when you're feeling creative in the morning type of thing.
Nice, I'll check it
Don't
out.
go through it too fast.
Okay, all right. Last one. Most underrated Bitcoin company?
Geyser Fund. Because we need to be able to have the ability for anybody to raise money to do crowdfunding globally. and I love what they're doing. They're allowing people in anywhere to be able to do crowdfunding, because like half the world is cut off from crowdfunding, and they're using Bitcoin to enable everybody in the world to do crowdfunding and still preserve like privacy and censorship resistance. And they've been just supporting tons of cool projects, not just coding stuff or tech stuff, but like education, media, entrepreneurship, and all that stuff. So I love what they're doing. I think they don't get enough love, and they're constantly shipping. They're like smart tech team, constantly iterating, and they're AI first. They're using all these like new technologies to like, they're just cutting edge, great Bitcoiners, and they're integrated with Noster and AI and stuff. So if you haven't checked out Geyser Fund and you're a Bitcoiner, you should. You probably know about them by now, but
Awesome.
I still think they're underrated.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you, Brad. That was the end of the lightning round, and we're at the end of this show. So, is there anything that you would like to say to listeners? Anything you want them to remember?
Yeah, if you guys want to follow along on my journey, I'm still figuring this out. I post on Instagram quite a bit at Brad Mills Can.
We'll have all your links at the description.
Yeah, you can send me a DM. I post stories every day. Sometimes I'll post like, ask me any questions you want about Bitcoin, and then I'll answer them. So, I shared a bunch on this podcast, but there's obviously more. We're at a time, but the main thing is like, I always regret selling Bitcoin and focusing on anything other than Bitcoin.
Love it, man. Thank you for
All right, I
joining.
drink a lot of water. I gotta go pee.
All right, Brad. See you.